Welcome back. You are listening to I Am an Asset podcast. I am your co-host, Dr. Brianne Smith.
And I'm your co-host, Zachary Wilson.
And today we're excited to be talking to you about a recent college counselor meeting that Zachary had with his high school college counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's brought up some really good questions and talking points about improving your personal capital, and some of the things that we talked with her about were related to personal capital fully. So
yeah, it's really great that I had this meeting because I had a lot of questions and my counselor was very helpful with answering some of them, and it fit right into what we've been talking about a lot here lately, especially as the season of college applications are very soon. As of now, it's late July and they start early August. So
that's next week.
I'm internally freaking out. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm just gonna start with what all colleges start with when you're thinking about going there, which is admission and application. So she went over some things that I already knew because I attended that virtual meeting I talked about in the other episode, but she also touched up on some things I didn't know. So one thing that caught me by surprise was just having to know. This is different for every college, but for Alabama, which is where we're mainly using as an example for this, is that you have to know a lot about when you worked and what, almost down to like the week and hours that you worked and volunteered. They want to know that for the credit, and that really caught me by surprise. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I think before we really dive deep into the details of what you learned, and I think the application process is a good place to start. And you said you wanted to come to this meeting because you'd done that virtual meeting before, but before we dive into what she gave you, I wanted to ask you, how did you prepare for this meeting? Because you were prepared, and I didn't even know about this college meeting until the day before. And then you invited me. You said, hey, I made an appointment with my college counselor. Do you want to come? So how did you prepare for the meeting? And then what kind of questions did you have for her? And then let's work through the answers.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I originally did not know a lot about the process. So when I saw that Alabama had my email, because I gave them my score from the ACT, and a lot of colleges can find your email some way. I don't know how they do it, but your admissions your college counselor could help you get your name out, and they emailed me about a virtual meeting to attend to just learn more about it. And so I thought it would answer all my questions, and it did. But I took notes during the whole thing because I was stressed and I knew I wasn't going to be able to remember it all. So not only did I take notes, I also wrote down questions in case I could find someone that could answer them. And it eventually came to my attention that I could just talk to my high school college counselor about it. And so I made an appointment with her, and I brought all these questions, and I made some more that I had in the meantime. And I remember it was a big relief just finding out more about the process, because it's big and it's scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the first thing that she asked you really was what colleges you were considering.
Mm-hmm.
And like you just mentioned, the University of Alabama was one of your top 5 that you mentioned. So she kind of dove deep into using that college as an example to answer your questions, which I thought was helpful. And then some of the intricacies of each college she brought up too, because not every application process is the same, which I hadn't remembered that about your sister, about the applications being different. For example, the University of Alabama just needs 3 things. They need your transcript, they need your ACT scores, and they need your application.
Yeah, your standardized test score. Yeah.
Right. Standardized test score. Yeah. So those applications open up on August 1st, and pretty much everybody on your list was going to be the same. But she said in some situations, a college might also require letters of recommendation and an essay. So that's something to think about as, August 1st rolls around and we're looking at places that you want to apply. There might be some advanced prep that you'll have to do in like requesting letters of recommendation or writing an essay before you apply. So I was also surprised, like you said, about all of the information as far as the hours that Alabama was going to need.
For sure, yeah.
But what other questions did you have about the application process that she worked through with you?
Well, as far as the application process went, it was really about what can I do? Are all these things I'm doing in my life right now, are they like making an impact on my application? And some of them are. And it's helpful to know like what on your resume you can improve to have a better chance at getting admitted. And then a little bit of that bled into the scholarships. So scholarships is a whole nother thing. My ultimate goal, as I've recently stated, is that I want to save a lot of money going to college, because I've heard, online, the people can have these student debts that just haunt them for a long time, and I didn't want that. So I've really been putting in a lot of effort to learn more about these scholarships, and specifically for Alabama, there's some competitive and alumni ones, and some that you just get for when you get admitted. They look at your GPA, they look at your standardized test score, and you just get scholarships for having those things. So that's great. If you can get those academic requirements, you don't have to do much more than that to get a good scholarship. Furthermore, I actually wanted to get the competitive scholarships, though, because they are a little bit higher end. And I'm trying to save, as I said, the most money. So she talked to me a little bit about that, and I guess I could. Which one do you remember us talking about?
The scholarship wise, I think what stuck out to me from the scholarship conversation was she really has a system for helping with the overwhelm of it. Because I think just knowing that, okay, there's scholarships for universities that they give out, and some of them are automatic, but there's also additional ones that you can apply for. There's also departmental scholarships, depending on what your major is, that you can apply for. And then there's outside scholarships from local companies, local nonprofits, also scholarships that are centered around, something that might have come up in your personal life that makes you qualify for a scholarship. And so when you think about that, you're like, God, there's so many. How do I find them all? Well, your college counselor does a really good job of organizing them. And she shared with us that she sends a newsletter twice a month that has lists of scholarships that are coming up due. So I think that the way that she's organized it helped us really think through how we can tackle the amount of applying for these things that you do.
And I think it's not even just, it is very important to keep in mind that you're going to have to figure out the deadlines, make a schedule so you can spread out the workload evenly, but also just knowing about which scholarships are even available to you in the first place. And you touched on that slightly in our last episode where we talked about some external scholarships, but we could talk about it a little more now because, like you said, that newsletter where she sends out a bunch of opportunities is great. Because some are like agriculture, some are doctor, lawyer, certain clubs, and what you not necessarily bad, but what you could say is not good for you is there are some that just won't apply to you, and you're not going to be able to get them if you're not going into the field that they're for. But what is great is there's so many that if you try to do as many as possible, you're bound to get something. And it's just great that she does that for the opportunities. How might someone who doesn't have a newsletter like that, though, find scholarships?
Well, there are definitely websites that organized due dates and types of scholarships out there. There's tons of them, actually. You have to be real careful not to sign up for, a bunch of subscription type emails, which a lot of times that's what those are for. But some of the information in those scholarship websites are really good. Definitely reaching out to your college counselor, but then also talking to the college that you are interested in. They'll have an admissions or an advancement office that can give you some insight as to what scholarships are available and the deadlines for a particular college that you're interested in. So I think making a phone call to a particular college can also be helpful. If you miss a deadline or you didn't know about a scholarship, sometimes I've seen this happen. Scholarships go unawarded because no one applied for it. And if you happen to see it later after the deadline and you call, there's a possibility they could still award it to you if you were the only one that asked about it. So I've seen that happen, and that can be, if you stay on it, could be helpful.
I remember her telling me about giving us examples of like last year's this school or so-and-so, this scholarship didn't even have anyone. And I was like, I'll take it. No, I'll take it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say that, but I wish I could like, and that's the thing is that's another thing about just not knowing about it. Mm-hmm. And
but I think something that's pretty unique about you, Zachary, is that you are a young person who's actually thinking about these things. When I would say, many young people may not be thinking about scholarship opportunities right now because it might not be close enough to the day that you're going off to college when all of a sudden you have to pay this bill and, oh, I wish I had applied for those scholarships. You know what I mean? So I think this is a good time to really be talking about personal capital, because if you're thinking about applying for scholarships and you don't want to wait to apply for scholarships, even before then, thinking about improving your personal capital and building up your resume in ways that will set you apart to win scholarships. And I think you've done a really good job of that, and you do a lot of volunteer work. You have done a lot of research in educating yourself about the financial piece and, how much it's going to cost to go to college and what the options are for paying for college. And then just work experience and working on your skill set and improving your personal capital to prepare you for these competitive type scholarship opportunities.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's a great point. As we shift into talking about personal capital, what are some main areas, some key areas you want to cover in this segment?
Well, I think one thing in particular that we focused on today is scholarships. So related to that in personal capital is increasing your financial knowledge or your financial literacy, people call it.
Certainly.
And so a way to improve your personal capital is to understand and learn more about money and finances. And so I think educating yourself, actually, even deeper than that, taking ownership of it, which I feel like you have done. I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't say, Zachary, the weight of this, college education is on your shoulders. I think you feel like it's 100% on your shoulders. And in many cases, it might be for some of our listeners, they have to pay for their own school. And that's never been something I've said, this is all your responsibility. Of course, you're going to have our support and financial assistance for college, but you have taken ownership of, finding ways to reduce the cost of your education. And I think that can be done in multiple ways. So just understanding how much it costs and taking ownership is a big piece. And then for what your college counselor said is a lot of these schools are taking what you put on the application, the intangible pieces, the other than your GPA, other than your sport work experience, these other things that you're involved in and that you do, where they might award you a special scholarship that is just you're picked for something. It's not something you apply for. So really working on your resume right now is important long before you get to this point where you're about to apply, to prepare for things that you have to say about yourself. And I think that you have good work experience for sure, great volunteer experience, and then you've also really been focusing on the financial piece.
I think for those scholarships where they just pick you, I think those you can't even really try to earn. You kind of just have to be doing good things for a long time and hope that they notice you. And no one's going to just do that. Like that's not just like a single thing you can do. Mm-hmm. So the greatest advice I can give for you is to just increase your personal capital. And in the process of doing that, other people will notice it. And because it takes time and because you're improving yourself, that's a quality that people appreciate and they see value in. And so just by just passively improving your personal capital, you're indirectly seeking out those kinds of scholarships. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go back and say why I have been, because you've told me I'm unique in the fact that I've been trying to handle this financial process independently. Mm-hmm. And that's not without reason. I think there are two main causes for that for me personally, which are one, just responsibility. I've, from a young age, had to be responsible out of necessity. And that's because of a medical condition I had, which is unique. A lot of people can be responsible at a young age for multitude of reasons, or maybe your just parents just instilled it in you. I definitely had great parents to model for me what a responsible individual looks like. And also just the second factor is just wanting to, I don't want to say like do things myself, but I wanted to be able to look back and say that when people ask me like, where'd you go to college? That it wasn't just because I went to a college because my parents could pay for it. I wanted to say that I earned everything to go to college, which obviously is still not true because, as I previously mentioned in one of our earlier episodes, she pays for the school I go to. So it's like I'll never really have earned it all myself, but I'm sure going to try to get as much money as I can to make it easier on you guys. But you guys will probably still have to help me. But I want to be able to look back and say I tried, at least, in the very least. So
yeah, and so far I think you're making really great headway on that goal because you've already got 7 credits. 7 classes will be done after your junior year before you even start your senior year, which is almost a full year of college, from you doing dual enrollment and AP classes, passing those AP tests. So
I haven't counted, but that sounds around there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think as far as, today goes, I think it was a good meeting. I think was really impressed by how you took it upon yourself to schedule this meeting and get your questions answered. And I think I learned some things too, and we've put some dates on the calendar to prepare for deadlines that are coming up. So I think it was good, and I like that you were prepared. And I looked over at this piece of paper you had in your hands. I was like, that's a good list. That looks like a really good list of questions that you got. So it was a good
There was no organization. I filled up the entire page, like both sides.
It felt pretty organized.
It was a manifestation of the chaos in my head right now. Anyway, is that all you want to cover for today?
Yeah.
All right.
So, well, thank you for joining us today. And next time, I think we're gonna have some good things to talk about as you start applying for schools.
I sure hope so. We'll see you guys next time.